Hey, I'm Michael Hyatt. Welcome to the Free to Focus Productivity Summit. I'm so glad you're here today. This is going to be an exciting episode because I'm here with my new friend, Shawn Stevenson. And in case you don't know him, Shawn is a leading health, wellness, and sleep expert. His podcast, The Model Health Show, has been featured as the #1 health podcast on iTunes. And his best-selling book, Sleep Smarter, explores the profound connections between sleep and success. And I've invited him here today to share with you some of his best productivity insight, particularly as it relates to sleep, so that you can become more free to focus. Now, if you hear some interesting tips or strategies during our time here, just post on social media, use the hashtag free to focus. That way we can engage with you there. So, Shawn, you ready to get started?
I'm absolutely ready.
Awesome. So great to have you. For people that may not be as familiar with your work, can you kind of give us a little background on how you got into this whole thing with regard to sleep?
Okay, yeah, I definitely fell into this one. I was not coming out of college thinking I was going to get into the health field or even going into college, let me say. Initially, when I graduated from high school, I was like, I'll be a doctor. So I went pre-med, and then I discovered that I hated science, which is, it doesn't kind of go together, And but the crazy thing is today, I'm in love, passionately in love with science. And it really is because in school, you don't get that visceral connection, something that is very tangible to your own life. In my first semester there, the upperclassmen were very fixated on self-diagnosis because we learned a lot about symptoms and correlating problems. And so people constantly saying, I know that I've got this, I know I've got that, look at the symptoms. It just freaked me out. So I just seen a movie called Boomerang with Eddie Murphy at the time. So I was like, that looks cool, I'll get into marketing. And so I changed my major, but fate had other plans for me. And it was when I was 20 years old and when I was in college, I got diagnosed with spinal degeneration and degenerative bone disease. And so what that essentially means was my physician at the time told me I had the spine of an 80-year-old when I was 20.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of correlating pain and very difficult walking. It's actually hard to talk about. Every time I kind of channel back, it really was a low point in my life because I went from being I went to college with the intention to play football and red shirt and all that kind of stuff. But all that shattered my whole identity as well. And so long story short, getting this diagnosis and sitting there with my physician, he told me that there was nothing I could do about it. Bottom line, he said this was incurable and this is something I'm going to have to live with. And I don't know to this day, Michael, whether it was like some kind of, and a mutual friend of ours, Pat Flynn, if it was like a Back to the Future moment, my old future self jumped in my body. But I asked him, does this have anything to do with what I'm eating? And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he said, this has nothing to do with what you're eating. But then he wrote me a prescription to eat some drugs. Right.
Yeah.
So
right.
That's the level of consciousness that I was dealing with. And it absolutely mattered. But at the time, I had no clue. I did take one nutrition class in college, but, I negative learned. I didn't even learn anything in that class. So fast forward the story, 2.5 years go by. And so now I've gained about 50 pounds. So I'm a much fluffier version of myself.
I
Chronic
like that.
pain. It's the politically correct I want to, And I was fitted with a back brace. So I'm wearing a back brace. I'm constantly in pain. I'm literally scared to stand up. So I'm just getting worse and worse. And I was smart enough, and I always encourage everybody listening to every opportunity I get, make sure that you seek out a second and or third opinion. And so I did do that, but it was the same story for me. And what happened there was kind of the dark night of the soul. I really hit rock bottom. And I was on multiple medications that were causing me to be on other medications. And my most difficult struggle was sleeping at night. That was where the real drama happened every day. I sat on the corner of my bed one night and I'm about to take my Tylenol PM was my drug of choice. I had a lot of prescription stuff, but this one seemed to really put me in a coma. So looking at this pill bottle, and it just kind of all came rushing in that I've been throwing my life away waiting for somebody to come and fix me. I was hoping that the next doctor is going to say this, the next doctor is going to tell me something he can do about it, but it never happened. And so that's the moment I made the decision to get well. And it sounds so subtle, but most people never actually do that, Michael, whether it's in their health or in their business. It's more wishful thinking. I hope this works out. I'll give this a try. I wish this would happen. And that's very disempowering.
Yes.
I think hope is a great concept, but, it says hope floats, and it's not very tangible. And so when I made that decision, and, I'm a big student of lexicon, Latin de meaning from, and kaidir, which means to cut. So when you make a real decision about something, you cut away the possibility of anything else but that thing. And so my decision was to be the healthiest person on the planet. And I also knew from my past experience in school that I don't want to learn about disease. I want to learn everything that I can about being a healthy, sovereign human being. How can I be as healthy as possible? So I started to study health, which is not taught in college. And that's when everything changed. And it wasn't like a unicorn came out and the clouds parted and it was like a miracle, but it kind of is a miracle. But I put a plan together, and that plan entailed 3 major components. Number 1 was right nutrition. I knew I was on the college diet, and I call it the tough diet, typical university food. So I'm like guzzling down at least every other day, a large Papa John's pizza is $5 special for university students. McDonald's, if I got up in time, like I was just putting the worst possible stuff in my body. And here's the thing, and I want everybody to take this away too, especially as you're getting older and you got this programming that things are supposed to break down. Your body cannot heal itself unless you give it the raw materials it needs to do so. You know, so my spine was deteriorating basically rapidly. I wasn't giving, and here's the thing, when you think about bones, Michael, what's the nutrient you think of?
Calcium.
Calcium, yes. Marketing is a wonderful thing, kind of, all right? That's the one thing that you hear about, but there's like 300 other components. Some are more important than calcium, but calcium is very marketable. You can get the milk mustache, that whole thing.
Yep.
But I discovered that there were things like sulfur-bearing amino acids, polysaccharides, and magnesium, how critical that was. Sure. I had no idea. And I'm getting in like negative nutrition with this fast food diet that I'm on. And so I started to look, what are the foods that have those things? And so I started to flood my body with those things. Another thing was radically dehydrated. Your tissues need water to regenerate as well. And I was drinking maybe like half a glass of water. I don't even know how I made it to 20. And let me just run through really quickly. So that was big thing with the nutrition. We could do a whole show just talking about that. Second part was movement. Right movement. Your body requires movement in order to heal itself. And I found research to affirm that your body assimilates the nutrients when you move. And I was not moving because, I was told to be careful, don't do anything, and you're just going to atrophy. Third thing, and this is where we're going to focus today, sleep. You're not healing if you're not sleeping.
Yep.
And so my biggest struggle every night was on that pillow and tossing and turning. And the pain was so bad that it would wake me up if I changed positions. Once I got my sleep dialed in, it's like the floodgates open, and I got better so quickly. And so into the story, jump to 6 weeks after that decision moment, I lost 28 pounds, which is not typical. I'm not a heavier person by nature, so it just kind of flew off of me. The pain that I've been experiencing 2.5 years, every moment of my life that I was in fear of getting up was gone.
Wow.
And what happened was so amazing is that the people at the university started to ask me what I did, because I didn't just look like a guy who lost weight. I looked so vibrant and I was glowing. So my professors started to ask me what I did, fellow students, faculty, and they all became my first clients. And so I started my entrepreneurial venture really started then when I was 22 years old. And so I shifted all the coursework back to science. So I started to study biology, kinesiology, all these things, and graduated, opened my own practice. And I got a scan done as well of my spine 9 months later. And I lost 3/4 of an inch in my height due to degeneration. I grew half an inch and the degeneration was gone. As far as I looked like I had the spine of maybe, the doctor said a 30-year-old person. And that was a huge difference. And he said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because he hadn't seen anything like that. I had 2 herniated discs, they retracted. And that's kind of my story. It was kind of the worst thing that ever happened to me was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm so grateful for that. But it really got me to dive in and study sleep early on. But the last 5 years has just been game changing, especially the birthing of Sleep Smarter.
Man, that is a fantastic story. I love entrepreneurs that, take what they've experienced and use it to help other people. I find that that's the most authentic as well, because they're not just preaching theoretically, but it's real lived experience. So congratulations.
I totally agree. Thank you. And, it's put you in a very powerful position when you've overcome something that someone told you is impossible. And then you hear somebody else say that story. No, listen, I've been there. And we need more examples like that of overcoming, rather than, so many stories. And of course, the internet is just overflowing with problems. but we have to, and this is why I love your work too, is putting more positive examples that people can follow.
Well, thank you. So the average person that's watching the summit with us, they're really busy. And there's kind of this idea that kind of floats around in the ethos that says, or the ether that says, maybe if you skimp on sleep, then you can catch up and be more productive. But I'd love for you to just outline for us, what are the negative effects of not getting enough sleep?
Yes. We're in the context of running our own business, oftentimes of being effective, being productive is what it's really about. And so what it boils down to, let's start with learning itself. This is critical to us growing and evolving and becoming better at what we're doing and getting more stuff done. So I pose a question to everybody. Just ask yourself, what is learning? What is learning? Never really stop to think about that, but essentially learning and how the brain works, you're connecting something with what you do know already with something you don't know. All right. That's what learning essentially is, connecting something you already know with something that you don't know. And through this process of these connections happening, you're creating a literal connection in your brain. And there is these synaptic clefts, and bottom line, I don't want to get too geeked out, but myelination. All right. So this is an important word, myelin. So when you're learning something, you're laying down more myelin. It's basically like insulation over these nerve pathways. And the more you repeat something, the more that myelin gets laid down. Or if it's a really emotionally charged event, it can create more myelination as well. So this is the difference between you taking your first shot on the golf course and just probably missing the ball versus, the greatest golfer in the world, Tiger Woods, whoever the case might be today. And so they've fired that pathway so many times. Myelination, it's laid down. They don't even have to think about it. Right? But we do. And so here's what's so fascinating. This was published in the Journal of Neuroscience, and they found that sleep seems to turn on genes that are known to play a part in our myelination. Wow. So sleep is the big component with us learning, with us laying down that connection. And there's a process during REM sleep. It's called memory processing. And this is where your memories from today, so as everybody's learning today, it gets converted to your short-term memory while you're asleep. Okay?
Wow.
So this memory processing is really ripe during REM sleep, but other stages of sleep as well. So if you're not getting adequate REM sleep, you're literally just putting a huge block on your ability to learn. And
so
I want to give an example.
Not getting enough sleep makes you stupid. I mean, is that
bottom line? You get dumber. Yes. And here's a great example, Michael. And I'm not saying that we've ever done this, but if somebody drinks too much and they wake up the next day and they don't really remember too much about what happened. Why is that? Nobody ever stops to ask, why don't I remember what happened? And this is because there's something called a REM rebound effect when you drink alcohol. So your REM sleep is radically disrupted. You could still get some significant deep sleep in different parts of REM sleep, but it's broken.
Yeah.
So that block in REM sleep literally leads to you not remembering what happened. And there's just different layers of that when you're not getting adequate sleep through the day and you're trying to learn. So we'll just start with that. Your learning ability to learn is radically compromised.
Okay. So what about your ability to focus?
This one is super important to me because I truly believe that today focus is a premium. We're at the most distracted society in the history of the world, for sure. This study was published in the Journal of Applied Psychology that found that the less students slept the night before, the more likely they were to wander off from their assigned task. All right. So the connection that they called it cyber loafing. So it's this new word going around, and every hour of disturbed sleep resulted in cyber loafing for an additional 20% of their assigned task. All right. So that's when we're working on a project and then next thing you know, I'll open up Twitter real quick or go to Instagram for a few minutes. We can't help it. Next thing you know, it's like, what am I doing? You got to try to jump back into what you were trying to do. It's because your focus is so radically disturbed. And the big correlation here is our sleep quality. As soon as you're getting compromised in your sleep, or your sleep efficiency is what we're going to talk about today. When that's not on point, then automatically your ability to focus is going to be just tore down to the floor.
And so for people that are senior level executives, like people that are watching this, or people that are business owners or entrepreneurs, productivity, as you mentioned in passing, is like everything.
Yeah.
And if you can't focus, you can't be productive. And if you're not getting adequate sleep, correct me if I'm wrong, those things are going to be dinged. You're going to have a competitive disadvantage
Yeah,
by not getting enough sleep.
absolutely. You know, we've got this idea today that, and let's be honest about this, you know, hard work is definitely a component of being successful. However, today with marketing, you know, there's hashtags out there, no sleep, sleep is for suckers. Well, I'm a lollipop then, because, you know, the science shows otherwise. There are people who are, what we want to promote is it's a both and world. You don't have to sacrifice your sleep in order to try to be more productive. And I'm talking with these people. You know, I just had a conversation a little while ago at dinner with Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's one of the big, like, crush it guys out there.
Yep.
He's like, yeah, I'm getting my 7 hours sleep. He hired a trainer to make sure that he's doing the stuff he's supposed to, because he's playing the long game.
Yeah.
There are going to be spots where, you know, you're going to sacrifice and you're going to go a little bit harder, but you want to traverse through that as quickly as possible, because here's the bottom line. There was a really fascinating study. This was published in the Lancet, and it was done on physicians. Okay. So it was a physician study, and they had them to complete a task. So they complete this task, sleep deprive them for just 24 hours. So it's like, just say they did the task at, you know, noon one day, they came back and did the same thing the next day on noon. Here's what happened. First of all, they made 20% more mistakes doing the exact same thing. And it took them 14% longer to do the same exact thing.
Wow.
So they lost efficiency, they lost effectiveness. So there's a big difference between doing work and actually being effective. That's the big headline.
Okay, say that again, because that's like a huge takeaway.
Got it. So there's a big difference between doing work and actually being effective. We'll mistake that. So we'll cut our sleep and skimp on sleep to do more work, but you're creating more problems for yourself oftentimes. And we got to go and clean up the mess. You're sacrificing your creativity, your ability to be analytic as well. We could talk about decision makings as well, you know, as far as sleep is concerned. This will blow your mind if we talk about some of the brain science behind that.
Okay, so one last thing I want to hit on this, and then I want to move on, because we could talk about the negative impact or the positive impacts all day. But what about overall health, like heart health, like the ability to maintain your ideal weight? How does sleep impact all those things?
Again, let's be real. Sleep is not a sexy topic, all right? But abs are. People love abs, flat belly. Here's what's so crazy. So there's a study published. This was conducted by the University of Chicago. This blew my mind. And if people can really get this, it's going to be a game changer for you. So they took individuals in this study and they put them on a calorie restricted diet, typical stuff. And they monitored, measured everything. And they allowed them to get 8.5 hours of sleep. And they tracked this. All right. So that's one phase of the study. Another phase of the study, same exact diet, tracking everything, calorie counting, but they sleep deprived them. So now they're getting 5.5 hours of sleep. At the end of the study, they found that please hear this. At the end of the study, they found that when they were getting adequate amounts of sleep, they lost 55% more body fat.
Wow.
I didn't say weight. I said body fat, the actual gooey stuff. All right. This wasn't a water manipulation. They lost 55%. That is a lot. Clinically, if you see a number like that, 10% is a lot, 55% more. So the question is, what's going on there? And that's really what I dive into with Sleep Smarter is what's the how is this happening behind the scene? And so here's some of the big things that we're getting the benefits with sleep. So number one, we're getting a radical increase in our amount of human growth hormone that we produce. So we produce a majority of our human growth hormone while we're sleeping. This is also known as AKA the youth hormone. So kids tend to have a lot more HGH. This is why they have so much more energy. And just like, would you sit down? You know, but they've got a lot of that pumping through their system. And it's correlated with retention of your lean muscle mass. It doesn't necessarily make you bigger and stronger. It helps you to heal faster. It's correlating with retention. So you're not going to atrophy and lose your muscle as quickly. And it's also correlated with increases in your energy level. Also, and this is one of the big ones that a lot of people know about today, which is melatonin. So this is, you heard it here first, guys. You know, this is really, really fascinating stuff. So there was a study done recently that found that melatonin actually helps to activate and turn on something called brown adipose tissue. Okay, so BAT, we'll call it BAT for short. All right, so this brown adipose tissue functions like muscle in that this brown fat burns like intensely. It radically increases your metabolism, but it burns white adipose tissue, which is the gooey stuff I referred to earlier. So melatonin triggers an increase in your brown adipose tissue that burns white adipose tissue. All right, so melatonin is also correlated with burning fat. Melatonin is only getting produced properly if you're exposed to proper cycles of light and darkness. All right. If you're not getting those proper cycles and exposure to these things at the right time, you're going to suppress your melatonin. And we're going to talk more about this, of course, but we're setting ourselves up for failure. Also, this is huge, and I've got to share this in good integrity every time I get the opportunity. Melatonin is quite possibly our body's #1 anti-cancer hormone. All right. Wow. So melatonin functions as this kind of anti-cancer compound in that if you look at the research and you see that people who do shift work. So I'll just get to the point. So the World Health Organization came out recently and said that shift work, so working overnight, is a class 2A carcinogen. Right. Oh I didn't say exposure to radiation. I didn't say, lead exposure. Not sleeping at night is a cancer causing agent. It basically activates, it's an epigenetic trigger. It turns on genes that trigger your body to produce more cancer or not be able to subdue cancer cells like your immune system should be able to. So I could just go on and on at the different things, from heart disease to diabetes. But bottom line is sleep is the #1. It's more important for your health than the nutrition. I'm a clinical nutritionist, so I'm sorry to say this, and exercise combined far and away. That doesn't mean to eat Twinkies and get good sleep though, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's the foundation.
Yes.
So sleep's just absolutely critically important. And we've seen in this discussion some of the health impact and on our mental focus, on our productivity and all the rest. So it's important, right? And I would love to see a cultural revolution where people have it as a badge of honor on how much they're sleeping, not how little they're getting by on, which seems to be kind of the norm today. But I do think that's shifting thanks to people like you. But I want to move into this whole idea of sleep efficiency. Yeah. And how do we create a sanctuary where we can get better sleep and really improve not just the length of our sleep, but the quality of our sleep?
Absolutely. All right. So just like there's a big shift in public consciousness today about calories, people are becoming more and more aware that it's not just calories in, calories out. It doesn't work that way. It's the quality of those calories, because 250 calories of broccoli is going to impact your hormones, your DNA, everything about you radically different than 250 calories of ding dongs or zingers or whatever it is. I'm in like a hostess mindset right now. So they're going to impact your system radically differently. The same thing with sleep. It's not that calories don't matter though. Mm-hmm. They don't matter as much as we've been led to believe. With sleep, the quantity doesn't matter as much as we've been led to believe, because you can get 8 hours of Twinkie sleep. All right. You can get 8 hours of poor quality sleep, just like poor quality calories, and wake up feeling like a sock, like a dirty, holy, gross sock. And just like, you can't even peel yourself off the mattress. And I've seen this, I can't even tell you how many times clinically when people are like, well, I'm getting 8 hours of sleep, and they're still tired all day long because their sleep cycles are not efficient. So that's what we focus in sleep smarter, sleeping smarter. How do you optimize your sleep cycles? Because to tell a human being that they need to get 8 hours of sleep in order to be healthy is, I think it's negligent. And it's something that we have to really steer away from, because everybody's different. And the amount of sleep you need also changes depending on where you are in your life, depends on your workload, your stress load, your exercise, your overall stress load, all the pieces, emotional stress, all that stuff is going to modulate and change the amount of sleep that you need. We need to get more in touch with our bodies and not with this ideal that I need to get a certain amount of hours of sleep. In general, humans are going to fall into the 6 to 9 realm somewhere, but for you, it's going to be unique. And if you can get rock star level 6 hours of sleep, you're going to feel far better than if you were to get 8 hours of Twinkie sleep. We'll just use that as a nickname today. So here's how this works. So we have, depending on which expert you talk to, 4 to 5 different stages or phases of sleep that you go through.
Okay.
This is all dictated by what's going on with your brain waves. Okay. So cycling between alpha and delta and just all that kind of stuff. We don't need to get too much into that. But the bottom line is, when those sleep cycles are disrupted, that's when you're going to have the Twinkie sleep. That's when you're going to, even if you're getting 8 hours of sleep, because you could be physically unconscious and laying down, but your melatonin could be suppressed. So if your melatonin is suppressed when you go to sleep, that means you're not going to go through your normal stages of sleep. If your cortisol is too high, all right, if dopamine is not doing what it's supposed to do. So what it really boils down to, and a big takeaway I want people to really go home with, is that it's all about hormones, whether it's your sleep, whether it's your ability to lose weight. We have to focus on hormones, not on calories. We have to focus on hormones, not hours of sleep. So how do we optimize these hormones? And this leads to the conversation of what are the things that are disrupting our sleep quality today. And this is the big thing right now as we stand here today. And we're going to look back at this as like one of the dark ages in us figuring this stuff out, is our tech. All right. It's our all important. And I love my iPhone. I love it. I love my Mac. We have a great relationship, but we have an understanding as well. All right. So Harvard researchers confirm this. You know what? I don't know, Michael, did you see the new update with the iPhone, the iOS update where they put the night shift on the phone? Did you see that? Do you know about this?
Yes, I do know about that. And I've actually got the new beta version of the next one, which has also got some cool bedtime stuff in it.
See, Michael knows, guys. All right. So, and if Apple's doing something, so Apple, they put this is standard now on their devices. All right. It's night shift. And what it does is it pulls the most troublesome spectrum of light from your screens at a certain time every day. So why does this matter? Okay. So Harvard researchers confirm that when you're exposed to light at night, in particular, blue light that radiates from our devices, and you might think like, I'm looking at my device, it's not really blue. If the room was dark and then we saw your face, like that beaming off of your face, it would have like a bluish white hue to it. Mm-hmm. All right, that's the strongest light, and it most correlates to daytime for our brains that have evolved over eons, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. And when you're in that environment and getting bathed in that light, it's telling every cell in your body that it's daytime. So it's throwing off your circadian clock. And your circadian clock is as real as your wristwatch, as the time on your iPhone. It's telling your body what time every single day to produce certain hormones. All right. So, and Harvard researchers found that not all light is created equal when it comes to this. All right. Blue light is twice as suppressive to your melatonin than green light. And they found that red light is negligible in how it impacts your melatonin. And through evolution, what would we be exposed to at night? If we did have light, what colors would it be? 200, 300, 400 thousands of years ago, it would be red, reddish, orangish, yellow, because we had fire. All right. Mm-hmm. Only recently have we been able to basically manufacture a second daytime and throw off our circadian clock. So I'm going to just throw this out there really quick before I wrap this point. So what they found was that every hour that you're on your device, right, just the standard device, not using the apps that we have access to, which I'll give people some hacks. Every hour that you're on your device is 30 minutes, approximately 30 minutes of suppressed melatonin. Okay. Every hour, 30 minutes of suppression.
Wow.
That's only at night. All right. During the daytime, it hasn't been found to have any impact on your melatonin or cortisol cycle. Because also the other part was that I didn't mention. So melatonin suppressed, cortisol is elevated. All right. When you're on your tech device at night, it's elevating your cortisol, this glorified stress hormone, that these two have an inverse relationship. So if melatonin is down, cortisol is up. If cortisol is down, melatonin's up. So what we want to do, some quick hacks. Number one, night shift, which is on Apple devices. And you can just program your phone to do this automatically.
Yep.
Today, guys, go get Flux on your laptop, your desktop. I've been using it for, I think, about 3 years now. F.lux. Just go to Dr. Google, and it's super easy app, and it will pull out the most troublesome spectrum of light from your screens automatically based on the time of year, your location. It knows how to do it. And these are hacks. The best thing, though, if we really want to be a player at this stuff, is to give yourself a screen curfew. Get off of your devices, because even though the light isn't a big issue anymore, it's still an issue. We also have this stimulation, all right? That internet kind of stimulation. I break this down in the book because, most people don't have any idea about this. It's like, why can I not be on Facebook before I go to bed, or whatever the case may be? We're literally physiologically addicted because of dopamine and this kind of dopamine loop that I break down in the book. So get yourself off of that. Get back to human connection. All right. As crazy as it sounds, have a conversation with a real person. This is a good time to read. If you're in a relationship, your husband or wife, this is a good time maybe to get together, intimacy. That's a great thing. And also I talk about in the book how it's clinically proven to improve sleep quality, which we call it sleeping together for a reason. But, I broke down why that is. But just this is a great time to connect, plan your next the day, you know, just get out a notepad, journal. We got to fill that with better things. And Michael, as you know, we're going to talk about this as well, hopefully, is rituals and just something to get back.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. That's great advice. Okay. So what I want you to do, I want to get into rituals, but before we leave the environment, you know, the sanctuary idea, I just want you to tick off, and you're fantastic about giving the why behind all this. I feel like I've stumbled into a treasure trove of sleep knowledge. But what would be some of the things, like if you were writing a prescription for somebody about how they need to, you know, things like temperature and, you know, what the bed's like and all that kind of stuff, what would you say some of the things that they need to be careful of or pay attention to?
Okay. I like transitions. So we're going to piggyback off my last point. So there was a study done. This was with Italian couples. All right. So they're middle-aged Italian couples. And they found that couples who have a television in their bedroom have 50% less sex. All right. So I'm just going to throw that out there. All right. It's probably people pausing this like, let me go get my TV out. But what it is, number one, it's a distraction. All right. And it's a neural association. So we want to create a sleep sanctuary. We think that we're so, you know, evolved and grown, but we're like big babies. We're hardwired babies. And so when we were kids, we had like a bedtime evening ritual. And today we just kind of go into our bedroom. We're on our tech devices. There's a neural association that gets created. So even if you're tired and you go into your bedroom, if your brain, if that's the place where you go to watch TV or you sit in your bed and do work or whatever, parts of your brain immediately start firing like, oh, I'm in this room. I know what to do.
Yep.
They're going to start activating, and it's going to cause sleep disruption. Right. Not to mention the fact that we're bathing ourselves in this blue light all night if we're sitting there watching TV before we go to bed, which is suppressing your melatonin. Also EMFs, electromagnetic noise, electromagnetic frequencies, which this used to be kind of an airy-fairy thing, but now there's really great solid science ranging from everything from DNA mutation to cancer. And why have this stuff near you? You know, a lot of people like their cell phone is, I said I love my cell phone, but we have an understanding. I'm not sleeping with my cell phone, you know? So a recent study found that individuals from 18 to 24 years old, over 50% of them sleep with their phone right next to their head all night. All right. And so crazy, crazy stuff and dangerous stuff. But this is kicking off low wave, you know, radio waves, things like that, that can basically disrupt the communication between the cells in your body. Get that stuff out of your room. Get the TV out of your room. Create a sleep sanctuary. Doesn't mean don't watch TV just in your bedroom. You know, make it for sleep. Sleep and sex should be the kind of two things that are going on in your bedroom. Also, so number one is get the tech out of your bedroom. It's kind of an obvious thing, I hope, at this point. Number two, you want to get it as dark as possible, especially if you live in a city environment. I showed Michael my yard, and then we moved from a pretty bustling kind of area at one point, and I had blackout curtains. And this was years ago I was doing this stuff. Now it's kind of in popular media. I'm not saying I helped get it out there, but I did help get it out there. But get yourself some blackout curtains if you live in an environment where you've got street lights outside and you've got, you know, your neighbor's porch light, whatever the case may be. Because it sounds crazy, like I might wear an eye mask. Well, that's pretty good, but here's the crazy thing. Cornell University did a study, and they had the individual in the study, the test subject, sleep in an otherwise dark room, and they put a fiber optic cable behind their knee the size of a quarter. And that light, it's dark in the room, just that light hitting the back of their knee was enough to increase their core body temperature, which disrupts your sleep hormone production, and it disrupted their overall sleep efficiency. So their ability to cycle in and out of those sleep cycles that we've been talking about. It disrupted their sleep quality with that tiny light behind their knee. All right.
Amazing.
So what does that mean? Exactly blew my mind. Your skin has what they're called photoreceptors that pick up light, and it sends information to your brain, telling your brain, hey, I think it's dusk. I think it's daytime. I don't know. You know, it throws off that circadian timing. So get some blackout curtains if you live in an environment with artificial light. If you live in a place where it's just natural moonlight, that's okay. It's unnatural light exposure is what the problem could be. So get some blackout curtains if you need to. Last thing that Michael mentioned was the temperature. So your body has it's a process called thermoregulation. And depending on you and your unique body type, it's going to be a variance of maybe 1 or 2 hours, but humans are pretty consistent in this. When it gets dark outside, your core body temperature starts to drop. And that is to facilitate reparative enzyme production that happens during sleep and also hormone production. All right. So it cools down, and it's tied to other programs that are created to help your sleep efficiency. I hope that makes sense. So
yeah,
bottom line is this: if you are too hot or the environment is too warm when you go to bed, it's not that you can't sleep. It's your body has a harder time trying to maintain that high quality sleep efficiency. So what researchers have found is that the ideal room temperature is actually quite cool at 62 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit.
wow.
So for some people, they're going to get like ideas of like, winter, it's like winter is coming. It's in my bedroom, but it's not that cold. And some people is like, I love that. I love if it's 65 in my bedroom. And so I have my wife, she's from Kenya. So we have this, she doesn't like to be cold at all. And I'm more of a warm bodied person. So I don't really like the word compromise when it comes to marriage. I like blending. Yeah. Just coming to an understanding. So we keep it around 68 with the top end of the spectrum at night. And when I get up in the morning, I get up first because it's really for people that get cold. It's like getting out of bed in the morning. So I immediately get up and I turn the AC off. I turn it up to, 73, 74 in the house. So that's been her out. So she gets out of bed. And if you tend to be colder person, just wear some warm socks because it's really our extremities that get cold and kind of send the rest of the cold signals through our body. So
that's good.
I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. That's hugely helpful. Okay. We're getting close to the end here, but I've got one question I want to ask about for the person who really struggles to sleep. Maybe it's a young mom or a young dad. And I remember those years well.
Yeah.
We've got 5 kids and, it's hard. I think we decided at one point we went about 30 years without getting a complete night's sleep just because somebody was always up doing something. Or somebody that just can't turn off their brain. And I know many of the things you've said are helpful, but what would you say to a person that's really struggling with insomnia?
That's a tough subject, and it's something that I've seen many, many times over my career. And what's so interesting is that this is actually, it's very, very simple. It's not necessarily easy, but it's very, very simple. So for most of us, it's learned behavior, being kind of molded into somebody who's considering themselves a poor sleeper. And our society today, we have radical increases in incidence of insomnia versus 50 years ago. I mean, if you look at the numbers, it will blow your mind. Now, always when I say these type of things, I immediately, as the analytical person, me like, well, they weren't tracking as well, whatever. But if you see the numbers, it's so stark and difference is just, it's mind blowing. And why that is it's learned behavior and it's our sleep hygiene. It's our sleep habits, so it's really getting back in touch with things that are facilitating better sleep, which for whatever reason, well, we know what the reason is. It's our infatuation with our tech. We've lost touch with these basic things that humans once knew how to do. And so what we have to do is very simple. It's creating ritual, creating patterns. Our kids even, my son, Braden, he's going to be 5 in 2 weeks. He's been sleeping through the night since he was right around 7 weeks old, at least 10 hours, because I'm coming into the game knowing how to create that neuroassociation, those patterns. And we was very, very conscious. But most of society, I remember we went to get a video one day, like when we actually went to video stores when he was first born. And we were checking out, and this couple in front of us, they turned around and they were like, "Oh, your son is so cute." He was like 7 months old, 8 months old. And they're like, "Oh, well, you're still not sleeping, huh?" And I'm just like, "Are you kidding me? Do you know who I am?" It was kind of this joke. And the reality is we've been inundated with this idea that kids don't want to sleep and they're going to cause you problems. In reality, the baby wants to sleep.
Yeah.
You have to help facilitate that. And it could be different things. Of course, kids are going to wake up, especially early on, those first couple of weeks, couple of months, but they're trying to find that sleep rhythm. And it's most of the time it's us disrupting them. All right. So getting back in touch with good sleep hygiene and consciously creating neuroassociation for our kids and ourselves is really the big key. We have to create rituals. We don't get ready for bed anymore. We get ready for a date. We get ready for work. We get ready for a meeting. We get ready for school, but we don't get ready for bed. When we were kids, I'm pretty sure the majority of people listening, we had a sleep ritual, whether it's our parent or our grandparent.
Yep.
Today, we just stumble into it. Like we literally just turn off our phone and like, I should get some sleep. We don't have any ritual, any neuroassociation created with that. The more we can create that, you're programming yourself to do the thing you want, just like anything in business or anything in health.
Give us an example. I don't want to leave this interview without talking about ritual. So give us an example, Shawn, from your life of what your ritual looks like, and use that to illustrate the concept.
Sure. One of the big headlines that I want people to walk away with is that a great night of sleep starts the moment you wake up in the morning. All right. So it's the things you do during the day. And this is the things I stumbled into back when I had that severe, so-called incurable condition. I started doing things during the day that helped improve my sleep quality at night. So I'm just going to throw out really quickly. Well, actually, we can come back to that. Let me talk about the sleep ritual. So generally, I'm getting off my tech device. It's not always perfect, and it's not about being perfect, guys. It's just about progress. An hour before bed. So if I just say I'm going to bed at 10:30, I'm off my tech 9:30 at the latest. All right. And this is the time.
Do you have an alarm or something?
You know what? I do, which is so funny. Nobody's ever asked me that before. I do, and I don't even think about it anymore. So it's a little notification on my phone that pops up, because cool. Everything is scheduled,
Yeah.
And so I'll put my tech aside. And this is, for me, it's a time that I oftentimes do a lot of reading for my show or whatever the case may be. With physical book. I'm reading a physical book and or hanging out with my wife, hanging out with my teenage son, just talking and having that time for connection.
Yep.
I'll do some planning for the next day. I'll, on a physical piece of paper, write out my routine for tomorrow, what my schedule is going to look like, those kind of things. All right. And then as I transition to the bedroom, there's nothing else going on in that bedroom but two things. So my body already knows when I go in there. So I, brush my teeth, that kind of stuff. But I also put on topical magnesium. All right. So
I read about that in your book. Yeah.
This stuff is crazy. I've never received as many messages about something I've recommended than this magnesium. So magnesium is responsible for over 300 biochemical processes, and a lot of those are related to relaxation. So what does that mean? Let me just make that make sense. So basically there's 300 things your body can't do or can't do properly if you're deficient in magnesium. It's the number one mineral deficiency in our world today, in our country specifically.
Wow.
80+% of people are dramatically deficient in magnesium. So, but here's the thing is that I found is that food first, I'm a big proponent of food first, but getting your magnesium levels up is very difficult because it's an anti-stress hormone. And we're so stressed, even if we don't know that. So your body's zapped on it very quickly. So supplementation is important. But if you take too much of an oral supplement of magnesium, it can cause what I like to refer to clinically as disaster pants. And so what that means is diarrhea. All right. So you have to be careful about taking too much because it pulls more water to your bowels. Now, topical magnesium, and the one that I use in particular, it's 99.9999% absorbable, and your body can only use as much as it needs. So you could spray it on and rub in as much as you want, but it only absorbs as much as it can actually use. And so I've been doing that 95% of nights for the past maybe 5 years as well.
Wow.
It's one of my evening rituals as well. So I'll take a few minutes, kind of some self-massage, which is great as well. I talk about the benefits of that. And that's activating some oxytocin, some your parasympathetic nervous system. Yes, circulation. So it's going to lower your blood pressure. And all those things are correlated with a better night's sleep. And also the room, I'll turn the AC down. It's one of my, as I'm walking by, headed to the bedroom, I'll turn that down. And I'll do there's a little thing that I do, a little tiny meditation practice before bed. And you asked about this earlier, about how do you calm down that, we call it inner chatter. And so the American Academy of Sleep Medicine published a study that found that meditation is effective. It's an effective treatment, almost as effective as the top insomnia medication for insomniacs. All right. Meditation is almost as effective.
Wow.
So that's in short term. Long term, it's more effective. All right. Plus, you don't have side effects. So the study found that over a 2-month period, sleep latency, total sleep time, total wake time, wake after sleep onset, sleep efficiency, and even depression was all improved in these patients with insomnia. All right. So meditation, the word can have some stigma attached to it. So I call it brain training. And the study found that meditation in the morning helps you sleep better at night. And also, if you want to do like a mini meditation in the evening, it can be helpful as well. So what is it? Why does this matter? Well, meditation, it helps you to focus. All right. So a lot of times we're trying to go to bed, we've got like 20 tabs open on the computers of our mind. All right.
Right.
You need to minimize those and just keep one open. And that one is sleep. It's not about not having thoughts. It's just being able to focus on sleep. Like, I'm just going to sleep. And that can help to retrain your brain to do that. So that's a big thing.
That's good. You know, one app that I've found that's been enormously helpful to me with regard to meditation, and it's not woo-woo, it's really simple. I like brain training as a euphemism for that, but it's an app called Headspace.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with it?
Yes, I am. I've got to be. I've experimented with all this stuff.
I mean, it works so great. I love it. It just, you know, they have, I think you can try it for 10 days and it's just a little exercise, 10 minutes a day for 10 days. Fabulous.
Guess what? My 4-year-old son does that.
Really?
He does Headspace. He loves it because it has a little cartoon before the meditations.
Yep.
So we'll sit there and we'll do it together in the morning, you know, or we'll do it different. I have had the great opportunity of my mother-in-law, which I said, again, she's a big fan of yours, but she taught me meditation. She was a meditation teacher. Like, she learned like Maharuti school like 30 years ago when the Beatles were going, you know, it's like this great story, but she gave me this gift. And when I first met her, she said this interesting statement. She said, if I can give everybody in the world one thing, it would be meditation. When she said that, I thought she was nuts. I was like, give me $1 million. Why would you want to give me, you know, meditation? But I get it. I get it now. It was that's probably the biggest catalyst for who I am today, is being able to get back in touch with who I am, is to quiet all the noise and just be present in these subtle things. And I think that can even come across in who I am and the presence that I bring. But it's not about, you don't have to sit cross-legged in a corner somewhere or in a dark. No. There are many forms of meditation. As a matter of fact, the Journal of Health Psychology published a study demonstrating that daily Qigong practice. So this is more of a moving meditation. All right. So like Tai Chi, people might know about, but Qigong, in just 1 month, it was enough to increase sleep duration and other psychological factors of well-being in patients who struggled with sleep. All right. So AKA insomniacs, just 1 month doing Qigong. So there's movement meditations, there's mindfulness practices. There's a lot of things to experiment with. I don't put yourself into that box where you say, you know, I've tried that. I've tried everything. I promise you have. You probably tried like 3 things that don't work. You know, there's so many other opportunities and options. It's just taking the time, taking a few minutes to experiment, you know, find something that resonates with you, and it's just going to pay off big dividends in the end.
That's the key word, experiment. Well, Shawn, unfortunately, buddy, we are out of time. I could talk to you all day. I love this topic. We didn't even talk about naps and some of the other stuff I love to talk about. But thank you so much for dropping by today. And I want to thank each of you who are watching this. Thanks for joining us. You can find out more about Shawn at themodelhealthshow.com. Is that the best place, Shawn?
That's right. Yep.
Check out his podcast. Check out the book. But I know you're going to learn a lot by following Shawn. So, and I want to encourage you guys to take immediate action on what you've heard today. Never leave the scene of someplace you've learned something without taking action. And then I want you to comment in social media using the hashtag #FreeToFocus to tell us what one thing you're going to do differently as a result of this fabulous interview with Shawn today. And by the way, just a reminder, the more you share on social media, the better chance you have of winning free premium access to my new course, Free to Focus, Achieve More by Doing Less. So thanks again for joining us. Again, a special thanks to our sponsor, EA Help. Please stay tuned to hear a special message from them and more from the Free to Focus Productivity Summit. Thanks.
You have 475 unread messages. You have 24 unheard voicemails.
Are you managing too much? An EA Help virtual assistant is the solution. We handle the details so you don't have to.